Hello, I hope you're well. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome to today's video, which is my July TBR. Now, I am particularly excited about July because I happen to be co-hosting two readathons, the Broadway Babyathon and Tarot Readathon, which have both been in the works for a few months at the very least. So the fact that they are now here, the fact that I am selecting my TBR and sharing it with you is super exciting. I am super jazzed about it. But I also know that I'm trying to cram a lot into July, not just with the two readathons, but also like books that I'm trying to get to because of other obligations and other goals that I have for myself. So this is like an overly ambitious TBR, and to be honest, who doesn't love those? But I'm not necessarily setting myself up for success here. And I know that going into it. We're gonna give it the old college try and see what happens. So why don't we just dive right in? So we're gonna start off chronologically with the Broadway Babyathon, which is the Broadway musical themed readathon taking place from July 1st to July 14th, and I'm co-hosting it with Catherine, Katie, and Claire. If you haven't seen that announcement video, I will link it for you, but essentially the teams are all named and inspired by a Broadway musical. I am captain of Team Sweeney Todd, and each of the teams has 5 prompts that you can complete by doubling up or not. It's your choice. And your aim is to complete all 5 so that you become a Tony Award winner, and also to earn your team enough points so that they become the best musical winner. So, as I mentioned, I am captain of Team Sweeney Todd. So I'm going to talk about the books that I've selected for those prompts. So for Sweeney Todd, the first prompt is The Worst Pies in London, which is to read a book that is out of your comfort zone. And I have selected The Power by Naomi Alderman. Will this be the time that I finally get to this book? Maybe, maybe not. I guess I'll let you know at the end of July. But The Power has ended up on numerous TBRs, and I have just never gotten around to it. And I think that's because I'm a little scared of it. I'm a little afraid that I am not going to enjoy this book because it is out of my comfort zone. Speculative fiction is not my bag. But I do know that my friend Liz is the one who recommended it to me, and she's given me some really A++ recommendations in the last year, so I'm somewhat, maybe cautiously optimistic about it. I don't really know all that much about it, with the exception of apparently the women in this like speculative universe have this power that can be used to hurt or kill, but I don't really know all that much about it, other than I am scared to read this book and don't know whether I will love it, hate it, or not. But yeah, as I said, it has appeared on many TBRs in the last year or so, and so I really should get around to it at some point, so using it for The Worst Pies in London. The next prompt is Green Finch and Linnet Bird, and that is to read a coming-of-age story. So I've selected Chimes of a Lost Cathedral by Janet Finch? Why can't I never say her name? I always want to say Finch. Janet Finch. And this is actually book 2 in the Marina M duology. So I read The Revolution of Marina M earlier this year and absolutely loved it. It was one of my favorite books of the first quarter of the year, so January through March reads for me, and this is picking up where that one left off. So Marina has already lived through like the 1917 revolution in Russia, and now is living through the Russian Civil War, so basically everything that's going on in Russia between the different revolutionary factions, and she is going to try to survive it, very much like she tried to survive the first half of the duology. So considering I loved Marina M so much, I am very, very excited about this book, but I'm also nervous. Like, can this live up to my very high expectations? I really don't know. It's also a really risky read for a readathon because it is a thick boy. Like, it is thick. It is, I think, around 800 pages, so it is a little risky, but I do think that this is potentially another 5-star read for me. I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed. But yeah, it's set in Russia. Need I really say more? Probably not. Anywho, moving on to the next prompt, which is Johanna, to read a book with a name in the title. So I've actually selected The Roman Spring of Mrs. Stone by Tennessee Williams. Tennessee Williams is my favorite playwright of all time, so when I saw that he had a novel, I was very drawn to it, and I've actually seen the 2 movie adaptations of it, one with Vivian Leigh, who I adore, and one with Helen Mirren, who is my queen, and I want to be her when I grow up, as I've said on this channel numerous times, so I am really interested in actually reading the story. It is the story about this like aging stage actress, Mrs. Stone, and she's in Rome and kind of living very aimlessly and has to grapple with this kind of like aimless existence as well as grapple and come to terms with aging. So I'm very interested in seeing like what those 2 movies that I watched have been like adapted from, like what the source material is like. I also have read all of Tennessee Williams' plays, but I have no idea how he is as a novelist, so that is something that is very curious and intriguing to me. Next, we have A Little Priest as the prompt, which happens to be my favorite song from Sweeney Todd. Like, it's terrifying and macabre, and I love it, but the prompt itself is to read something that's gothic or horror or just anything that's dark. So for this one, I'm going to a tried and true favorite for myself with Sarah Waters' The Little Stranger, which would be her 5th novel that I've read, once I've actually read it, and I'm very much looking forward to it because all of her books have been 4 or 5-star reads for me since I discovered her last summer, probably around this time last year. I don't particularly know all that much about The Little Stranger, which is the best way to go into a Sarah Waters book anyway, because there are so many plot twists and intrigue and stuff going on that you just like to be surprised. But from what I gather, it is about this family living kind of in their like crumbling estate in the post-war years, and it's going to be about what else is kind of dying in addition to their like way of life, their comfortable way of life. So yeah, that's kind of all I know about it. As I said, Sarah Waters has yet to disappoint me, so looking forward to this one as well. And lastly, we have By the Sea, which is to read a summer beach read. So for this one, I really wanted something that would be humorous, kind of light, also a fairly quick read. I wanted to listen to it as an audiobook as well. So with all those parameters in mind, I ended up selecting Heartburn by Nora Ephron, and I'm kind of embarrassed to admit that I've never read any of her essay collections or her novels. I've read like the odd essay or article by her over the years. I've also seen all the movies, but haven't read any of the books, so I figured it was high time I fix that. And this audiobook happens to also be fairly short. I think it's like around 6 hours, which seems doable for a readathon, especially when I have that really big Janet Fitch book, and The Little Stranger is not a small book either for 2 weeks, so it has a lot of promise to it. But it does seem to be this story about a woman dealing with the like breakup of her marriage. She happens to be pregnant at the time when her husband decides like he's in love with another woman and leaves her. And I think the like heartburn part of it has to do something with the heartache, but also the fact that this character writes cookbooks or is somehow involved with cookbooks in general. So food as consolation and all of that stuff. And it just sounds like it's going to be delightful. I also know that Nora Ephron's like wit and humor is on point from what I've heard and from the few pieces I've read, so I am very much looking forward to this one. Okay, moving right along to the Tarot Readathon, which is from July 10th to July 24th. So there is a smidge, like a teeny tiny amount of overlap between the two readathons, but if you haven't seen that announcement video, I will link it in the cards as well. This is my tarot themed readathon that I am co-hosting with Noelle, Jess, and Deja, and it is teams again, and I am captain of Team Swords, and there are these upright and reverse challenges that impact the TBR additionally. So there is the upright, which is that I can double up on a prompt once, and then the reverse is that one of the books for one of the prompts has to be chosen at random. So those were two things I had to keep in mind for the readathon, and how I chose my prompts was I actually shuffled my deck and did a like 5-card spread of sorts. I didn't really lay them out, as you will see, but I will insert footage of me selecting my cards right now. With the one book that I'm using for 2 prompts, which is like a benefit or a positive for being on Team Swords, and I'm actually using it for the 2 major arcana cards that I pulled. The first is Temperance, which I feel like you're not going to be able to see because there is a lot of foiling here, which is what makes that card really, really striking, but ring light ain't kind to foil. But this is to read an ebook or listen to an audiobook. So when I got this, I was like, excellent. This is a great pull for me because it is a readathon, so having an audiobook on the go while I'm reading something physically is usually the way I get through more books than normal. So that is I'm going to listen to an audiobook for this one. And then the other major arcana card was the Moon, which again, you might not be able to see it all that well because of the ring light, but this card freaked me out a little bit because it is to read a mystery or a thriller, and literally the first thought that flashed through my mind was, do I even own a mystery or thriller? Because I really don't read either of those genres widely. It's not something I'm particularly drawn to, so this one made me a little bit nervous. So me in a panic decided to scroll through the Libby app and see which mystery books they have available that maybe has like a historical setting, because I love historical fiction, so maybe a mystery with a more historical setting and like trappings to it might be really enjoyable to me. So the one I ended up going for is The Mitford Murder or Murders by Jessica Fellows, who I think is related to Julian Fellows, the man who created Downton Abbey. So I was really drawn to this book because the Mitford sisters as like historical figures in the first half of the 20th century are just fascinating, and their lives are basically meant to be turned into novels or turned into movies because it's just so incredibly entertaining and interesting and filled with intrigue and like glamour and just a lot. So the fact that their name was involved in this, I was like, yes. It's also set in the 1920s, and I do like a cozy murder mystery, like as a TV show, and one of my favorite TV shows is the Miss Fisher Murder Mysteries, which is also set in the 1920s. So those kind of connections made me think, maybe this wouldn't be half bad. So yeah, I don't know a ton about it. It seems like the main character, Louisa, is working with Nancy Mitford, one of the Mitford sisters, to solve some sort of murder. So I feel like there is a glimmer of hope that this will be really, really entertaining. And I do think this is book one in a series, so I think that there is a book dealing with each sister potentially. So yeah, we'll see how I get on with this one, basically. The next card that I drew was the Three of Pentacles, and I was really excited when I saw this card because the prompt for it is to read a nonfiction, and I was like, yes, love to see it. I need to do this. This is perfect. This is meant to be. And that's because I want to read 23 nonfiction books this year, and I knew that I was kind of on the light side with the spring and wanted to focus on more nonfiction during the summer and fall months. So I was like, this is great. This is an opportunity to do that. I also was like, this is fantastic because I have a summer TBR with a bunch of nonfiction on it. However, didn't go according to plan because I ended up using this challenge, this prompt, for the like randomization reverse challenge, which is to randomly select a book. And the way that I ended up doing this for the Three of Pentacles is that I took a picture of my nonfiction bookcase, which is in that direction, and I sent it over to Katie from over at Katie Reads and Rants and said, pick one. And the book that she ended up picking was The War Queens, Extraordinary Women Who Ruled the Battlefield by Jonathan W. Jordan and Emily Ann Jordan. And her reason for picking it is that she wants me to let her know whether it's worth reading or not, which is fair. That is a totally valid reason for picking a book, in my opinion. I don't know a ton about this other than I think each chapter in the book is going to be about a particular like war queen, and that's really all I know. I do know that some of the women who are featured in here are like historical girl crushes of mine, which is another reason that I ended up picking the book. So I know that Katerina Sforza's in here, I know Elizabeth I is in here, I know that Catherine the Great is in here as well. So lots of people that I really adore, lots of people that I'm also interested in learning a bit more about, and it seems to go from antiquity to more like modern history. Like I think the last couple in the book are like Margaret Thatcher and Golda Meir. So it should be really interesting. It's not going to give me like a full-fledged biography on any of these women, but still, I think it's going to be a nice taste. So thank you, Katie, for choosing this book for me. The next card that I drew was the Four of Pentacles. Again, not sure that you can see that really well, but this is the card that is for the read a book with wealthy or rich characters. And I chose a book that I'm really, really excited about reading. It's kind of been staring me in the face since I bought it, and that is Bel Canto by Ann Patchett. Now, I watched this movie earlier this year. I want to say probably back in January or February, and it stars Julianne Moore, and I ugly sobbed, which is why I immediately ordered this book, because one of the things you should know about me is I love a book that will make me cry. Like, I love that catharsis. I love being that invested in a character and a story that you feel it in your heart and in your soul, and it just aches for them. I love, love, love that. I love a drama. I love a tragedy. So yeah, that was part of why I picked it up. From what I gather, the two main characters, one is a businessman from Japan and the other is a coloratura soprano. So kind of like the creme de la creme of society, so I'm assuming that both are fairly well off. From what I do know about this book is that it's set somewhere in South America, and basically this terrorist group party crashes and takes all of the party guests hostage, and so the book, I think, is largely taking place during the hostage situation among these party guests. This will be the first Anne Patchett book that I have ever read, but I am really looking forward to it. I am really hoping that it causes some tears. As I said, it's something that I really enjoy about the reading experience. That makes me a little weird, I understand that, but yeah, this is one that I'm very excited about getting to. The final card that I ended up selecting for the Tarot Readathon was the Page of Pentacles. Not gonna lie, it felt very strange to draw 3 Pentacles cards. Like, I rarely pick Pentacles, but I was like, okay, fine, this is what the cards have said, the cards have spoken, and then I realized what this card represents. This is the prompt that is to read the shortest book on your TBR, and I was like, thank you, TBR gods, thank you. Because I have quite a few books to get through this month, so having a few shorter ones thrown in there just felt like it was necessary if I'm going to accomplish anything. So I ended up going through my fiction bookcase, finding the slimmest of the books that I have, and ultimately selected Still Life with Meredith by Anne Lewinson. And I really don't know much about this novella except that it is 90 pages, the shortest book on my physical TBR, and that when I saw the book, the classical painting here just spoke to me. I am a sucker for a classical painting on a book. You slap one on, more likely than not, it's going to find its way onto my big bookshelf at some point. But I do feel like this is going to be kind of really out there and experimental, because I've read the blurb on the back of this book countless times and still cannot figure out what it's about. So really, I'm just going to tell you what it says. So it's about someone who is waiting for her roommate to return home, and while she's waiting, she ransacks her past while discoursing on Dutch still life painting, on the mating habits of her species and others, and the extreme measures taken by the French psychoanalyst Marie Bonaparte to achieve sexual fulfillment. I have no idea what any of those things have to do with one another. So like I said, I feel like this is going to be really experimental in tone, which I'm okay with. But yeah, I just don't really know what to expect here. And the last book is one that is a little intimidating just because I have so many other books that I need to get to this month. But it is the 4th book in the Outlander series, Drums of Autumn by Diana Gabaldon, and it's a big book. It is nearly 1,100 pages long, so it is really big. So I need to at least start this book this month, because if I don't read it this month, then there's potentially a month that I need to read 2 or maybe even 3 Outlander books in order to make up for lost time, and to be able to read the 9th book when it comes out, Tell the Bees That I Am Gone. Is that what it's called? Something like that. But yeah, so I would essentially have a month where I need to focus on nothing but Outlander in order to do that. And as much as I love Outlander, I would rather not have Outlander overload and make it feel like a homework assignment. But this book is picking up where book 3 left off. I think it's set largely in 18th century America, I think mostly in North Carolina, where Jamie and Claire have now settled. But I do think with book 4, potentially, this is when Brianna and Roger become bigger players in the overall story. So I would potentially be interested in seeing that. This is what I'm gleaning, though, from having watched the TV series, so I could be completely off base. Regardless though, I love Jamie and Claire, so I'm excited about reading the continuation of their story as I have each month, but it is just a really big book. Like, all of these books are massive, so considering all the other stuff I need to read this month, it is a little bit intimidating to add this to the stack. But yeah, those are my overly ambitious July reading plans. To be quite honest, I don't necessarily think that there is any chance of me reading all of these books, but I love an overly ambitious TBR, and to be quite honest, like, creating a TBR is half the fun for me. I love putting together a list and just like checking off things as I go, so it's gonna be fun regardless. Both of these readathons too, I'm just so excited about them and have been so excited about picking my books for them as well. So whatever happens, but I'm just looking forward to it. If you're participating in either of these readathons, let me know in the comments though, and if you have a TBR video for them, share them in the comments as well, or on the Discord channels if you happen to join us there. But I do hope you enjoyed this video, because I certainly enjoyed making it, and if you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye!